Welcome to the channel. I'm the Scottish Astrologer, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the generational influence which Pluto has when it is located in the zodiac sign of Virgo. Now, if you were born with Pluto in Virgo, then you are part of roughly a 15-year group of people, okay, who were born roughly approximately within the years of 1958 to 1971 roughly. And now again, as Pluto does retrograde, okay, then if you're born at the beginning or the end, okay, so 58 or closer to 71, then please do check your birth chart specifically to make sure which zodiac sign Pluto is actually in, as we do have basically throwbacks from the previous generation coming into the next generation due to Pluto retrograding back into the previous zodiac sign. Okay, so please do keep that in mind. Now, Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury, and Mercury also exalts in Virgo, so basically double place Mercury this sign. So this generation has a Mercurian influence, okay? This generation basically brought great contributions to nutrition, medicine, education, even ecology. So those are the general areas which this generation mostly contributed their energy towards, okay? Producing progress in these areas. Again, please be aware that even if you are born within this particular generation and what I'm saying here doesn't quite sound like you, then that's acceptable for the fact that this isn't an individual reading. Not every single person from this particular generation is all going to be doing the exact same thing as stated here. It's just in general from this generation as a whole. In general, this is the qualities that are most prominent from that generation, just to make that clear to people. Now, generation Pluto in Virgo basically are driven by a great feeling or need to find basically an ethical standard and also a clear sense of what is right and what is wrong, okay? There is also a subconscious drive, as Pluto is the subconscious. That's what Pluto represents. So there is also a subconscious drive to straighten out the world's wrongdoings or evils, okay, and to create a world of perfect order, okay. So you've heard the term New World Order, etc. So a lot of people actually pushing this agenda or term actually do originate from this particular generation, okay? And obviously there has been some from previous generations and obviously from future generations, but most prominently from the people born in this particular time period, from this particular generation. They're the true thinkers and they see the world, the order of the world is not quite right. They want to fix that. They want to fix the balance of that. They want to change that order because they see it as evil, okay, or wrong, naturally. This generation in general also has quite a strong feeling of repulsion, okay. They feel repulsed by anything that's dirty or unclean or unhygienic, or as they'd call it, grotesque, okay? And another particular thing that comes from this generation is also the feeling of hopelessness or even helplessness, okay? They despair at the fact of the world's condition, okay? Like I said, they truly want to change it. People from this generation are driving the change, but that really spawns from the feeling of despair, okay, about the world's condition, okay? And most of this generation do have a true sense of just helplessness or hopelessness, like they can't change anything, okay? It's just set, it's fixed, things are the way they are, and they just have to get on with it. A lot of this generation has that particular feeling as well about the world's condition. So there's a lot of thinking about the world's condition that spawns from this generation in general, is what I'm really trying to get across here. As again, Mercury is a ruling planet of Virgo and also exalts. So again, a lot of mercurial energy comes from this generation. They think, they worry, and they remember, they never forget. Now, the biggest majority or percentage of this particular generation, okay, are come across as rather ethical and rather conservative people, okay, but there is a small group within this generation that is the opposite extreme, okay, to this, and they love being basically seen as different or strange or different in their appearance. Like, some of them really like to be different, a small percentage of these people from this generation, but they are there all the same. And some of the people, a smaller minority, can even be rather dirty looking and scruffy in their appearance, okay, or how the clothing they wear. It really doesn't bother them, okay. So again, there's two opposite extremes of the qualities of this generation. Most, again, like being hygienic, clean, presentable, okay, healthy, right, eating the right food, etc. But there's a small minority, again, that is a direct opposite, okay, to this, and they do the opposite. So they don't care about their appearance, being clean, washing their clothes, you know, they'll go out like that, they feel no shame, no embarrassment, they don't care what other people think about them. Whereas most of this generation truly does, okay. But again, I just have to make this clear that there is a minority of this particular generation that does go to the opposite extremes from what I'm explaining about this generation in general. Again, it's like this is a generation with no middle ground in between the two extremes, like I mentioned. You don't really find anyone in the middle of what I've been explaining. It's either one end extreme or the opposite end extreme. No middle ground. That's another point about this generation, another interesting fact. And most of this generation in youth, and as young adolescents, okay, that's when they're rather rebellious. They have a really rebellious behaviour within them. Again, most of the generation, not everybody. But this rebellious side tends to subdue itself, okay, basically later in life. And then this generation tends to be seen as conservative people. Again, very conservative in nature is the best way to explain it. Another aspect from this generation tends to be the fact that they basically cannot seem to accept simple answers when the question in which they're asking is a complex question. So they basically imagine if the question is very complex, then the answer must also be very complex. And most of the time, the right answers to things are the simplest of answers, okay? You don't have to get complex with the answer. But if the answer is too simple, even if it's true and correct, they just seem to not be able to accept that answer. They want the answer to be more in depth and basically complicated as a question, which is another interesting fact about this generation in general, not everyone again. Also, great change or transformations in the world regarding what's seen as good and evil, okay, will be transformed by these people. So what is termed good and what is termed evil will be made different by this generation. Not everything, of course, but certain things which were previously seen as evil may be retermed as good by this generation in particular, or vice versa. Things that are seen as good beforehand, people from this generation maybe have a different view of it and think, no, actually this is actually evil, no good in it at all. So that's another great change that comes from this generation in particular. And again, I think, like I mentioned at the start of this video, this particular generation, Generation Pluto and Virgo, is a generation who gives great contributions to the fields of ecology, nutrition, medicine, education, health and hygiene in general. Okay, also. And also taking care of your body, taking care of your temple, making it look better, etc. Okay folks, I think that's all for this video. A huge thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And once subscribing, please do not forget to hit the bell at the right hand side of the subscribe button, as that will keep you updated when I do upload new videos. Once again guys, a huge thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.